Swayam Prabha. Digital India. Educated India.
Welcome to the course Environmental Impact Assessments, and in today's session we are going to look at EIA reporting, how it is done, and then we'll also look at how EIA reports are reviewed for its quality. So accordingly, our coverage will include that we'll look at EIA reporting, we'll look at its content, purpose, and then we'll look at the EIA review process, what's its purpose, and what are the key aspects when EIA reports are looked into when they are reviewed, and how do reviewers look at that. So accordingly, the expected learning outcomes is that after completion of this session, you should be able to identify key elements of EIA reporting, what all should be put. So you should be able to list and structure EIA reporting, and then understand like what should come in which part of the reporting. Further, you should be able to identify key aspects of EIA review, what are the good quality report looks like. So you should be able to identify those and then be able to judge EIA report quality. So looking at EIA reporting content and purpose, we see that just to locate ourselves where we are, which process we are talking about, we are here in the fourth box where we are doing like the review of environmental impact assessment. So that part we are in, and then after the report has been prepared and it's submitted for review, then we will look at the review part. So we'll look at both, like how the report writing is done, as well as how the report is reviewed. So as a either if you are a reviewer, what things you would look for when you are checking, you are evaluating a EIA report, as well as when you are preparing it, what would be the key structure, and within the structure also, how do you understand each component of that structure. So we are basically in the third box of this EIA process. So looking at like EIA report structure, we follow generally in Indian context. We look at Appendix 3 of EIA Notification 2006. And so that helps you to identify what should be the key report structure. So that's the guideline which is available. As well as here I have also taken input from TOR, which also gives you a sectorial wise what kind of report layout has to be there, what would be the key elements which have to come in here. So looking from the EIA notification 2006, you can see here, I've taken the snip from the notification. So you can see that you have introduction where you put the purpose of the report, why the report has been prepared. Then you identify project and project proponent, you tell about those things. Then you also tell about nature, size, location of the project, and its importance to the country and region. So you tell its significance, it's important because that is why you are doing it, and it has, this particular project has to be done because it's needed, it's important. And then the scope of the study, what all the EIA would be covering here, and details of the regulatory scoping carried out as per the terms of reference. So what terms of reference, what was the guideline which you were supposed to cover within the EIA report, so how you have covered that. Then you look at the second part, which deals with project description. So here you give range of things ranging from condensed description of the aspects of projects. So you give like in a very condensed form what are the different aspects of the project, including the feasibility study, why it is feasible and likely to cause environmental effects, what kind of environmental effects it would cause, and details should be provided to give a clear picture to any reader of the report. So it would tell about type of project, need for the project, and then location, size or magnitude of operation, at what scale it is going to operate, and proposed schedule for approval and implementation. So what's the schedule which has been followed, and then the technology and the process description. Then the project description and all the detailed drawings, maps, components, diagrams, all these things have to be provided, and what kind of mitigation measures will be incorporated to the project, that all needs to be told here. And assessment of new and untested technology for risk of technological failure. So if any kind of technology which has not been assessed before, if that's been used, you need to describe, inform in the report. So that would come as a project description, and you may also reconnect with all the components we have talked about, the process part, the different domain part, and different component within those domain which we had discussed in terms of legislation, in terms of its process and methods. So all those have to be accordingly put in the project description. Then number 3, you see that description of the environment. So here you would be telling wherever the project is located about the environment. So what's the study area, what's the duration of the study, and then the components and the methodology which you have adopted for this particular study. And then you need to establish the baseline for the valued environmental components, VEC, which we have studied about. So you'll be doing the baseline. You have seen for every domain, you have already seen how to conduct baseline study. So that has to be given here in the description of the environment. And then base maps of all environmental components. So all the maps have to be provided. Then the 4th part of the report, you see anticipated environmental impacts and mitigation measures. So here you provide details of investigated environmental impacts due to project location, possible accidents, possible project design, project construction, and because of its operations and because of its other stage of decommissioning or related rehabilitation of the completed project. So based on all these, like we have seen that we do impact assessment for all the stages. The broad stages are construction stage, operation stage, and decommissioning stage, and aligned activities with that, with the process, and then also if rehabilitation is involved. So all that would be coming in this segment of the report. Then you would also give measures for minimizing and or offsetting adverse impacts of what have been identified. So how you're going to minimize the impact and how you're handling it. And then you will also identify the nature. So what we had discussed in the very beginning, like you would review what is the reversible or irreversible impact, what's the magnitude of impact, what's the duration, nature, temporal nature of the impact, and so on. So that all aspect you would be looking and discussing at this segment. And you will be assessing the significance of the impact based on all these criterias which we had already discussed, and upon that which cannot be handled, what would be the mitigation measures. So that all usually go in this part of the report, anticipated environmental impacts and mitigation measures. So now looking at point number 5, you look at analysis of alternatives. So you discuss that not just that site or that particular design, but you also discuss the changes in the technology and change in the site. So you you review that you have not only looked at that particular site, but you have looked at the alternative sites as well, and then you have also looked and explored various technologies which are available, and based on that you have chosen the optimal option. So in case the scoping exercise results in need for alternatives, so when the scoping is done, and if there is a need for alternatives, you would be identifying, analyzing alternatives here, and you would be describing each alternatives like what a similar way the project description. So each alternative would be described with that in that terms, what kind of technology and what kind of site changes are happening. And you would also give the summary of adverse impacts of each alternative, like how each alternative is changing. So mitigation measures proposed for each alternatives also have to be discussed, and then out of all those alternatives, you have seen in many cases when we were doing the sectorial methods, you have seen like how we discussed upon alternatives compared upon the alternatives. So in the sixth segment, you can see environmental monitoring program, so EMP. So here you give the technical aspects of monitoring the effectiveness of the mitigation measures. So you look at how you're dealing with all kind of impacts and what kind of solutions you're giving, and how you're going to measure all these things, and what will be the frequency, location, how you're going to analyze the data, what will be the reporting schedule, emergency procedures, detailed budget and procurement schedules. So how you're going to give that. So we have already seen EMP. So that part comes here. And then in the seventh segment, you see any additional studies, any kind of references which you have put together has to be placed here. So you look at, and then key point here is the public consultation. So how you have undertaken public consultation, that all has to be recorded, and what inputs you got from the public consultation and how that was taken care of has to be recorded here. Plus the risk assessments, like what are the involved risk, and then also social impact assessment and rehabilitation and resettlement action plans, if that's also involved in your project, that has to be placed here. And then you see the project benefits. So not only the adverse impact, but the positive impact, what you will have from the project. So how it is going to improve the physical infrastructure, social infrastructure has to be provided here. And you see in the ninth segment, you have environmental cost benefit analysis. You need to put it only if it has been identified at the scoping stage, otherwise it's not a necessary element of EIA reporting. Then here you will have EMP, Environmental Management Plan. So here for category A, it's mandatory to provide EMP, and certain category B might also require EMP. So for category A, it is mandatory. So whatever is the residual impacts which are there, which cannot be minimized, so how you are going to handle it through the EMP, Environmental Management Plan. So that has to be provided here, and then you will give the description of the administrative aspects of ensuring that all the mitigation measures are implemented and their effectiveness are monitored, and it also has it is usually, like we had discussed, is done after the approval of EIA. So this EMP is usually done after the project has these actions are taken once the project has been approved. And then later part deals with the summary and conclusion, which helps anybody to evaluate what kind of what direction, what judgment it leads to. So overall justification for implementation of the project, explanation of how adverse effects have been mitigated. So that's what you'll be putting under summary and conclusion. And then disclosure of consultants engaged. So you see the 12 parts. So if you are part of the team or with, then all these informations have to be disclosed here. So that's the overall structure given by notification 2006, and you also see it gives you the summary of EIA report. So it would also have a summary which would be mostly read, and summary will have all these 7 points which you can see: project description, description of the environment and anticipated environmental impacts and mitigation measures, environmental monitoring program, additional studies, project benefits, and environmental management plan. So all these things would also be there in the summary part, and summary is said to be very important because most of the time this would be read frequently in any report. So I've given you a link to this particular examples. There are many you can download from the Ministry of Environments. You can download from their site. I have given you the link to one of the report here. It's a lengthy report in certain volumes. So you can go through that and try to understand how the report is. And I have put some of the snip here for your understanding, but it's a very detailed report, so I'm giving you separately to understand. So that was about the structure, a very generalized structure. And I have again snipped another EIA report structure from the sectorial guidance from the, this is from the thermal power plant guidelines, which have been prepared again by the ministry. So here you see how they give different components, and these are aligned with thermal power plants. So all sectorial wise, you can see a very standardized. They have suggested a report structure, which you can also use. Apart from that, TOR would be the key reference. So many of the suggested TOR are given here. Plus you have it in sectorial guidelines, plus how through the system of ministry they would also provide aligned TOR for the preparation of the report. So here you can see the thermal power plant EIA report, and then you see the more or less the structure, same introduction, project descriptions, and the kind of details would slightly vary, or added things would be there given the domain nature of the project. So description of the environment, anticipated environmental impact and mitigations, analysis of alternative, and then environmental monitoring program, additional studies, project benefits, environmental costs, summary, disclosure of consultant engaged. So you can also look to the sector-wise structure as well for EIA report. So looking at the key purpose of EIA report, the idea is to provide very coherent statements. When we say coherent, very consistent, clear statements of what kind of impact the proposal, whatever project is coming, will have, and the measure that can be taken to reduce and remedy them. So what really happens? It contains essential information for the report will be read by the proponent to implement the proposal in an environmental and socially responsible way. So it's meant for proponents. It's also meant for the responsible authority, which is going to make an informed decision. So you have to also put all the information in a very systematic way so that the responsible authority can make the decisions regarding what has to be done, whether it is in an environmentally suitable way or not, and what kind of terms and conditions that which it applies to, that all needs to be attached for the approval and authorization of the responsible authority. And then also for the public, your report which you're going to make, or you are the public, then you need to know that it has to have certain quality. So the report is meant for public to understand the proposal and its likely impact on people and their environment. So there'll be three broad categories of readers who are going to read your report. And then a good report, EI report, would meet the following targets, like it would be actionable. Whatever we are talking about, we should be able to implement it. So, a document that can be applied by the proponent to achieve environmentally sound planning and design. So, whatever you're planning, it should be actionable. It should not be impractical, but very practical to translate on ground. Further, it should be decision relevant. Your document should help present necessary information for the people to make decisions. So your document should help decision makers to take relevant decision. Further, it should be user friendly. Your document should communicate the technical issues to all different parties in a very clear and a comprehensive way. So your report needs to be very user friendly. So keep those things in mind, irrespective of its technical details. It needs to be user friendly, very readable and actionable, and should help in making the decision. So EIA report, like we have already seen, includes many components. So here you see that it has, like we said, it should have a summary, executive or non-technical summary, and which would probably be used for the public communication document. So you see the importance of the executive or a non-technical summary. And then you would also have statements for the need for an objective of the proposal, then reference to applicable legislative, so all the legislative which we studied, so all that reference have to be made, and then a description of the proposal like we saw in the notification 2006. So how those descriptions, what content has to come, that all needs to be made, and comparison of the proposals and the alternatives. So even you are comparing that, compared to all the alternatives, you have looked at all the possible alternatives before you came to one particular solution. And then your report should also provide description of the project setting, including the relationship, so that all you saw in the notification 2006 structure, description of the baseline condition, as well as what kind of input you got from the public consultation process. And then how you are taking care of main impact, so that all should come very clearly, and then how you are evaluating the significance of all kind of impact, and what are the residual impacts, and how you are designing the practical best environmental options you're coming up with. And then you would be also giving the environmental management plan like you saw in the notification, and then how all the technical informations are laid out. So looking at the executive summary, it should, like when you're taking care of executive summary, it should describe the proposal and its setting in very brief manner, terms of reference, what terms of reference becomes very key here, because that's the line in which you need to work, and that is what is desired as the output from your EIA report. So terms of reference for the EIA, what was the terms of reference, the results of the public consultation, alternative considered, major impacts of their significance, proposed mitigation measures, the environmental management plan, and any other critical matter that bear on the decision. So all that has to come in executive summary and in a very crisp, concise manner. And then in the report, you would also be telling in your introduction need and objective of the proposal. So it gives a clear statement of the need for an objective of the proposal, why it has been done, and you need to substantiate the reference for why, within which policy, within which plan the particular project is done. And you can also refer to the demand and issues which the place through which what the project is trying to address. And you need to give the legal and policy framework, and this is usually a very brief description about within what legal and policy framework you are working on. And usually term of reference would also guide you like which legal and policy framework you need to adhere to. and you need to describe the proposals and alternatives like we've already discussed here, and then the baseline information, which becomes the key of the entire report. So you need to provide the spatial and temporal boundaries, biophysical land use and socioeconomic conditions, the major trends and anticipated future conditions, environmentally sensitive areas. So all that's what you studied in the legislation as well as method parts, from scoping part to the baseline assessment, domain-wise. So all those domain-wise domains which are relevant to your project has to be provided in this particular report. And you would be providing very concise but complete statement of the nature and scope and results of public consultation. So how you have taken care of public consultation, number of places you conducted public consultation, what kind of problems came up. So you need to take care that you have identified what were the interests of the people. You also mentioned what methods were adopted to engage with the stakeholders, and then also what kind of views and concerns were expressed, and how did you take into account all these kind of concerns, and what kind of issues which are there which are yet to be resolved in your case. So that all needs to be informed here. Then you would also take care of each impact. How did you predict the impact? So all domain-wise what we did, so you will also do it domain-wise, relevant to the nature of your project. So the prediction of each major impact, consideration of their compliance, how did you comply with that? What kind of recommendations are there? How are you evaluating the significance of the impact? And then what are the limitations associated with impact prediction? So what method you adopted, what's the limitation of that particular method? So what you would know about and what you are likely not to know. So all those things have to be given. And but just to recap, we have seen most of it. So here your impact characteristics summary table would be prepared, showing what are the impact characteristic and impact type, on what it will have impact. And then this would be given in a very summarized form. And you would also do comparative evaluation of like what kind of adverse and beneficial impact would be there. So there will be certain positive impact, there will be certain negative impact. So you'd be comparing between that as well, and how effective your mitigation would be, and how your benefits and costs are distributed locally and regionally, and what are the opportunities for community and environmental enhancement. So we have seen all these, so that all needs to be combined here. So here you can see how the transportation economic evaluation has been done. So here you see that alternative 1, alternative 2, alternative 3 and 4, how all that evaluation, what are the impacts and what are the positive, what are the negative impact, all that has been evaluated across the alternatives here and across the different domain: traffic, noise, land use, flora, fauna, exotic vegetation, landscape, and so on. So it helps. In all that domain specific, what you have done has to be summarized here. So that was about EIA reporting. So you see that how whatever we have studied, from the environmental status to legislation to different methods, domain-wise methods, how all of them come together in these segments. So your report can be really massive, voluminous, given the intensity in which you have to undertake the study. So we have already seen how big the team would be and how you would need different domain experts. So this would be how it would culminate and the final product would look like. Now we are looking at the reviewing aspect, how the EIA would be reviewed. So once your report is made, or while you're also making a report, you need to understand how the report would be reviewed so that your report is of considerably good quality, what is desired, and it addresses to the purpose of EIA reporting. So we see that there are guidance which are used by the reviewers. So here we see that it provides guidance to the reviewing and judging the adequacy and reliability of the methodology adopted in developing EIA report. So when judges, the reviewers are reviewing your report, how they would look at your report now. So this is from MUFCC's website. So this is the guidance which is given to the reviewers. And you also take note that these keep changing, the guidance information keep changing. So you need to really check what's the really updated and the latest data available from the website of your different agencies, ministries, department, which as per your context. So you need to continuously check that. So here it provides you that detail, so you can see that it gives is the description of the project and baseline conditions adequate. So they look at questions like that. Are the methods followed and models used in data generation and analysis reliable? So they will see that whatever models, methods you have used, whether they are reliable or not. And are the methods followed and models used for impact prediction comprehensive? So are they comprehensive or not? They give all the details or not? Are they relevant? Whatever models you have used, are they relevant and reliable or not? So do they give reliable results or not? So the reviewers would be looking at that. So you have, whenever you make a judgment about which models to use, with methods to use, you need to have a strong understanding about its relevance, its reliability, what kind of information it would give. And then has the risk analysis done, and based on which disaster management plan is prepared. So that whether you have done it or not, and on what basis have you prepared the disaster management plan. And then is uncertainty characterized, where applicable, provided for. So we did talk a lot about uncertainties involved in prediction. So have you categorized that, and have you what kind of information you have provided about that. And then a reviewer would also look at have the project stakeholders been appropriately consulted. So have you appropriately consulted as per the norms, and their concerns have been addressed or not. And then and also you see here they look at cumulative and cross-media impacts investigated and accounted for. So you might do it domain specific, then how have you taken care of cross-media impacts, then also have you looked at the cumulative impact. So that all will be evaluated for the completeness of your report. And are the unmitigated impact acceptable? So if there are unmitigated impact, are they acceptable or not? And are identified mitigation measures feasible, appropriate, and adequate or not? So that all the reviewers would look at, and then they would look at the scope, and within the scope, what kind of baseline conditions, site, process, alternatives, public hearing, all that you have given or not. Then they will look at how you're giving the baseline conditions, and they would usually have a checklist of key parameters as per the domain with which they would be checking your report. So you can see some of the checklists here. This document also, we are providing you the link, and also through the discussion forum we'll be sharing this. And then how the site, process, and alternatives have been discussed, and then what kind of drawings and details have been given, and what are the preferable scales. All those have been mentioned, and they're available for the reviewers to see. And then also like here for public hearing itself, an overview of the issues discussed, whether you have discussed it or not, how the concerns raised were responded by the project proponents. They will look at, they would tally what were the concerns raised and have you addressed it back or not. And then how these responses were conveyed back to the consulted. So not only how you took their feedback, how did you respond it, but did you also communicate back with them? And what was the public hearing panel's observations, and so on. So you see the box 3.3 here. So stakeholders identification, impact identification, mitigation options, monitoring, and community development. So all these aspects will be looked by the reviewers. And also at different stage, construction stage impact, then project resource requirement and related impacts. So they would be using as a checklist and reviewing all these aspects. And then prediction of environmental media quality, how you have taken care of. So we have studied here resource balance. So like here they specify how different steps you have taken and how the impact prediction has been done or not. So they would be checking that way. Likewise, they would be checking for socioeconomic impact, they would be checking for ecological impact, occupational health impact, major hazard risk assessment. So we have all covered all these. And then also look at the impact on transportation systems. So this as well we have covered. So the reviewers would be looking how well you have done that. And then also integrated impact assessment. So all these will be reviewed. So these are the guidelines given to the reviewers. So keep that in mind, that how the reviewer is going to evaluate. So your project will get clearance or not would depend also how well your report is communicating. So now moving on to the second part where we look at the review of EIA, so where the appraisal is done. So what we saw here was how your report will be judged. So now how your assessment, what you have done, how the quality of EIA, what you have done, would be reviewed here. So the purpose and objective of the review is that it reviews the quality of EIA reports, so that we have already seen part of it. And then it also takes care of account of public comments, so how you have taken care of public comments, and then determine if the information is sufficient or not. So whatever information you have given, whether it's sufficient or not, and are there any deficiencies that needs to be improved upon. And different aspects are considered while reviewing the EIA, whether you have complied with terms of reference, you have taken information provided is correct and technically sound, and then public concerns have been taken into, and are they complete and satisfactory, information provided are clear and understandable, information is sufficient for decision making. EIA review types of procedure, you see that there can be internal review and there can be external review. And when you do internal review, it has certain limitation that it can lack rigor and transparency, and you might not have enough documentation. And but however, it can be low in terms of budget, it might save your money. But then you can also have external review, which can have independent expert check on EIA quality. So you can check the EIA quality. It can be more rigorous and transparent, and then it can also show what is sufficient, what is deficient, and you will be able to publish the review report. So you have these internal review and external review, but you see that there's much more advantage of taking external review. And the EIA review procedure includes, for this, you can have environmental agencies which can come in. You can also have independent panel. Then you can have standing commissions, interagency committee, planning authorities, which all can help to take the EIA review. And while you're doing EIA review, there are certain steps to good practice. That is like there can be a scale of review, whether good, bad, how do you scale it up, evaluate the review. Then you can select the reviewers, you use the public input, you identify review criteria, how you're going to review, and you can carry out the review, and then determine remedial options, how you're going to take care of it, whatever the problems are, and publish the review report. So the following can be used in order of priority. So for review criteria, the key aspect here again and again, which has been repeated, is the terms of reference and EIA reports of comparable proposals. So wherever you find EIA report from the other cases, similar cases, you take as a reference point. And you also have other guidance what are the EIA requirements, guidelines and criterias, and then you can also look at certain good principles of EIA and the entire course where we have learned it. So all these can be used as a reference. And then you carry out the EIA review process, which is like here by the UN training program. You see that it has been updated by 4 steps. Step 1, identify the deficiency, focus on critical shortcomings, recommend remedial measures, advise on implication for decision making. So you're reviewing the report part here, so you can take care of these 4 things. And then there are a lot of review methods. You have general checklists, which are used generally. Then you have project-specific checklists also. Review packages are also offered by many institutions and research institutions. Experts and accredited reviewers also can come in. You can also have public hearing, and also there are frameworks which helps you to review. So some of them, this is the scaling part which I talked. So you can have A, B, C, D rating. So you can have, like, reviewers can tick to this, that A, generally well performed, no important task left incomplete. So B, generally satisfactory and complete, only minor omissions and inadequacy of the report. So even you can see, you can as an exercise, you can look at certain reports and see how well it addresses to all the aspects of EIA. So here from one of the example from the UN training manual, and then also from the Zimbabwe training manual, we see the process which is adopted for EIA reporting. So here you see how you have complete information on overall sheet of review report. Then you skim read EIA reports. Then you have review area 1 and all these areas, review area 2, review area 3, review area 4, depending on description, the description of the developments and the local environment and baseline condition. So review area 2, identification, analysis and assessments, alternatives and mitigation, communication of the results. So all these areas, how you are describing, how you're identifying, how you are looking at the alternatives, how you're communicating the results, all become very important, how your report will be evaluated for its quality. So you see how yes or no, you look into all these segments here. So this is the kind of a checklist which is used in Zimbabwe for their reviewers. So review of EIA report. So people, reviewers, the committee would review and put in reports in this way. So EIA report title, date, EIA report reviewed by, date of review, reviewer criteria. They would give rating to your report. And then they would look at minimum required, broad compliance, overall quality, and then review area 1, and so on. All the reviews areas would be seen. So I'll be giving you this document so you can see the complete review areas here. So looking at Indian context, so here we use the term appraisal, which means the detailed scrutiny by the expert appraisal committee, or it can be state level expert appraisal committee, which we have also covered before while we were doing the process part. So there you look at the application and other documents like the final EIA report, plus you also look into the outcomes of the public consultation and how you have incorporated that in the overall EIA report. So that is what is checked. And it is said that review process, so when the quality of review is checked, it is like inbuilt process to see the balance, the sustainability aspect, so how the report is taken care of, even the environment is taken care of. And the intention of the EIA, the broad intention of the EIA is addressed within that. So it allows to see that whether the information is enough, whether it's helping to make the judgment or not. So this is as per the, like I have taken these parameters from a sectorial area from the thermal power plant, and I'll be also giving this link to this documents, and you can also download from the ministry website. So there for this particular domain, thermal power plant, they have given how the appraisal would happen. So in the appraisal, it would in general would mean detailed scrutiny of all the assessment you have done by the committee. So the committee is going to look into it. And the appraisal will be made by the advisory committee to the central government, or SEAC, or to SEIAA. So key aspect again is the TOR. So where if that's not been completely addressed, it would be returned to the person who is prepared, or it can be rejected as well. And So again, they would be as per this domain, the project site description would be looked at. So here you can see in the example, I have taken from THDC, the project, from the ministry website. So how the document is huge, so I've just taken from the summary. So here they are providing, and this is the cleared a report. So this report got environmental clearance. So I've just taken from that. So you see how they are providing all the information related to project and location. And then clarity in description. So how all the things are clearly described. And for the thermal power plants, there you need to give the drainage pattern, location of eco-sensitive areas, vegetation characteristic, wildlife status, and so on. So here you again see from this report that how they have provided. So also the description of the project site, how well it has been communicated. So here and then how various impacts have been communicated here. So they have summarized all the impacts and how the mitigation measures are there. So this all this you see here, project phase wise, they have done it. So they will also check for completeness and authenticity of baseline data, citing of proper reference. So whether you have taken all the data from where you have taken, all that has been properly indicated or not, whether the values of environmental parameters are consistent or not with each other, also that would be checked. What are the mitigation measures? So that's all given in this as well. And then you can see here summary of EMP budget also provided as per the requirements, and how the input from public hearing has been incorporated, and then effectiveness and consistency of proposed environmental monitoring plan, and then how hazard and quantification of risk is done. So while reviewing, you can use general checklist method. So you saw that MOEFC give checklist. It can also have project specific checklist and guidelines as per the domain also. And then you can use the framework and packages, the ones which we saw from Zimbabwe. Then you also have expert and accredited reviewers also. Public hearing is also part of it. And this is one of another scale which you can see where the report can be evaluated like excellent, good, satisfactory, and so on. Another within the process itself ensures EIA quality. So you can see how screening, scoping, impact analysis, mitigation, significance. So whether the entire process has been carried properly or not would also help you to review that quality of EIA. So another scale which you can see for the EIA report. And usually there are certain shortcomings in EIA reports, the general observed and then the cases marked are indicated here. So these examples are here as per the UN training manual. So the list is given to you here, so which you can see. So I'll just highlight which are the key shortcomings. So the need of a project cannot be justified. So sometimes report where it is written, the key aspects are not justified for the project. The objective and alternatives are too narrowly stated, so you don't sufficiently describe it. The description of the proposal does not cover the key features, so then also most of the time these problems are there. Selection of alternatives does not take into account environmental aspects, so those problems are also seen. Key problems affected by the proposals are not described, so that can also happen. Sensitive elements in the effective environment are overlooked. Environmental targets, values, and standards are not properly taken into account. And then you also see that alternatives do not comply with environmental regulation and standards. That are also observations. Appropriate mitigation measures are not considered. So that's general what has been seen in EIA reporting. Alternative offering the best protection to environment is not described or insufficiently described. Serious environmental impacts or risks are not described or incorrectly described, so that kind of problems also come. So insufficient or outdated predicted models are used. So not latest models are used, outdated models are used, or the models which have certain limitations are used. And when comparing alternatives, incorrect conclusions are drawn. So that kind of problems also come here. So here you can see guidelines for appraisal from MOEFCC. So they have given this guideline. So we are giving this checklist to you. You can have a look. So this is how the reviewers would be again seeing in Indian context. Like they would have step 1, step 2. They would see how the report is complete, acceptable, inadequate, and then who is the proponent, government departments and Central Pollution Control Board and others through what it has been reviewed. And what kind of action? Step 5, return the proposal, process the proposal, submit the proposal for expert review. So this is how they're going to check. In our scenario, we use the checklist, so description of the project, all the parameter wise they would see, and relevant, yes, no, judgment, and comment. So they would make these comments. You can have a look at this checklist. So this has complete checklist. I've snipped it for you from the website, and plus we'll share it with you. So that's all what we saw today. So we looked at key elements of EIA reporting, the complete elaborates what report, what are the different components of it, and what's the purpose of each component, and how it is evaluated, what is really looked into when report is evaluated. Same way we saw how the EIA review, the quality of EIA is seen. So review process itself is a way of ensuring how the quality is maintained and how the key objective of EIA is met. So that is what we covered today. So these were the key references. Today's our key reference was the UN training manual, plus we took some part from our textbook, which we have been referring, Terrible and Word, and then most of the documents were taken from ministry website. So these are the suggested watch and read related with the EIA reporting and quality of EIA. And winding up, please feel free to ask questions. Let us know about any concerns you have. Do share your opinions, experiences, and suggestions. Looking forward to interacting and co-learning with you while exploring EIA. Thank you.